Alright, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, we need to put some things in order. 1. Do not ask about the moustache. I played a stupid game and I won a stupid prize, but I got to flex my knowledge. I will tell you another time. Or watch one of my previous and or next video, depending on whenever it is that I get to edit this one, there is an explanation. Second, I am not trying to steal CoffeeZilla's fit here. I attempted a formal event recently where I actually had to dress properly as an adult and act as one, which was nice for a change. But you want to know who doesn't act as adults? The DOJ and the Trump administration, in especially the way in which they've been handling the Epstein files. Because I have not seen anything this stupid, this incompetent and evil in a while. For mind you, I'm somewhat of a bit of a fan of American politics, geopolitics especially, because America, despite being a 250-year-old republic, has had a lot of influence all across the world. And what is very interesting to me is just how it is that American politics tend to capture, or should I rather say, American movies and entertainment tend to capture the essence from which it takes inspiration from. Because when you compare the ongoing insanity of the handling of the Epstein files with stuff like Watergate, which by comparison looks like a joke, it's bloody ridiculous. Because I had the unfortunate pleasure of exposing myself to that hearing that was going on not too long ago with Pamela Joe Bondi, AG or Attorney General of the freaking United States, and I don't want to be misogynistic, but she does not respect women either, Trump's biggest dick rider. Because the display that I got to see for the short amount of time that I actually got to watch it, because I couldn't go through the whole thing. I mean, are you kidding me? The way in which this proceeding went, and how obfuscating she was, gaslighting people, so much animosity, and for the short amount of time that I actually got to watch it because I felt my brain smoothing through the process, all that I could think to myself was that they are laughing at the American people. The people who actually do care about this stuff, because they don't seem to. All they want to do is to cover it up. So, there is going to be a PlayStation event later today, which I actually want to watch because I want to have some glee in my life sometime as well. So, I guess to somewhat tamper that, right, to get more enjoyment out of it, let's suffer through this just for a little bit. So, this is CoffeeZilla with Is This a Joke to Them?
Disgusted by the way this is all a big joke
Howard
to liars
Lutnick.
like Howard Lutnick, who deceive the American public about the status of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
That guy was there.
He was gross.
Now he testifies under oath that he actually went to the island of the creep and brought his kids.
We had lunch on the island. That is true.
He brought the kids, the whole family, the nanny, everyone.
I did have lunch with him as I was on a boat going across on a family vacation. My wife was with me, as were my 4 children and nannies. I had another couple they were there as well with their children, and we had lunch on the island. That is true, for an hour, and we left with all of my children, with my nannies and my wife, all together. We were on family vacation. We were not apart. For an hour, and we left with all of my children.
Nevertheless, every time Epstein is brought up, this guy can't stop chuckling. Here's Lutnick laughing again when Trump is addressing a question about Epstein.
To talk about how to respond to the Epstein situation.
I don't know. I could ask you that question.
He thinks it's the funniest thing he's ever heard. And maybe it's because they really think we are buying it. Maybe it's because they think, hey, we're just gonna get away with this. We can just keep, the lies are so brazen, so audacious, so in your face, that it is actually funny to them. And
I mean, they are performing. They are putting on a show for the one person whom they truly care about, Donald Trump. Who else? Who else are they performing like this for? He's the pedo protector, and a lot of the members in his administration are comprised of people who have built a reputation upon doing that very thing, protecting sexual harassers.
And you know what? I have to agree that the way the FBI and DOJ have been treating this is a joke. Because we just talked to a congressman who passed the Epstein Transparency Act. As part of it, the DOJ was supposed to release all the Epstein files with no redactions except for survivors.
God, and this is the infuriating part. Because you need to understand that this juncture, the passing of the Epstein Transparency Act is a bipartisan effort here. So it's not just like the Democrats want this out. Republicans are working alongside them. Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie, two individuals who naturally would not agree on much, are going with this and want these things to be released. Yet what does the Trump administration say? Every single time that you bring up something, oh no, you are the enemy of the state, you hate Donald Trump, you hate America. Well, guess what? I stumbled on this insane statistic that says that 94% of Americans do in fact believe that Jeffrey Epstein was running a sex trafficking ring and should be investigated. 94% of Americans are agreeing on a single thing. This happens never. This would be the equivalent of getting a dude from New York and another one from Chicago and asking them, hey, what style of pizza is the favorite? Normally you'll see these MFers fighting over which deep pan is the best, but no. Right now, they are holding hands and even agreeing on which topping they should be using. Americans really have an issue with ranch. People are actually in agreement with what should be done, but what are the people who actually holds most power in the government doing? Laughing at your face.
Because we just talked to a congressman who passed the Epstein Transparency Act. As part of it, the DOJ was supposed to release all the Epstein files with no redactions except for survivors. That didn't happen. Several of the survivors' names were left unredacted, and several of the perpetrators' names were left redacted.
Is an email that was sent by the victim's lawyers to the DOJ. It was a list of names not to release. What did the DOJ do with this email? They released this email in the document production. Literally the worst thing you could do to the survivors, you did. The title of this one is Child Trafficking. Co-conspirators, fully redacted.
But in response to criticism that they had over-redacted, they said, hey, we're so transparent, we're going to let you guys come and see the unredacted files to the congressman.
Oh, God.
The problem is, guess what happened when those congressmen showed up? This. The unredacted files
were redacted again.
Were redacted underneath the redaction. There were 2 layers of redactions. By the time the DOJ got them, they were already redacted. So what they're looking at is an unredacted, redacted copy of the Epstein files. This is at the same time that the FBI has a government project to build a next generation redaction tool where they claim they need multi-layer redaction management.
Jesus Christ. Think about this. These are your government dollars that are going to this. They are employing hundreds of thousands of employees, allegedly, to do what? Add a next layer of marker on top of it, seemingly randomly. Bruv, this is like why America lost like 50% of its soft power just in 1 year. Hey, you know what? Let us hire Doge. Let us hire Elon fucking Musk, another dude who has been on the island to cut government spending, which he didn't. Actually, Doge made it somehow that they actually spend more money. The government is currently spending more money than it promised to actually cut. Yeah, let us spend money renaming one of our institutions the Department of War. Dude, if I went to US military, I would be losing my
And you can see it here where a representative talks about getting to see the quote unredacted files. He says the search function didn't actually work. Half the stuff I was looking for was still redacted. We couldn't write on files we brought in.
We shared
4 computers for 435 members of Congress. So what is this actually? This is transparency theater. This is not...
Bruv. 4 computers. I saw some politician who did a calculation on this, stating that it would take roughly 6 years of 40-hour work week to go through all of the files that were in there. Dude, again, this is a joke to them.
Real transparency, it is actually a joke. Here's another joke. The FBI just concluded, again, that Jeffrey Epstein wasn't running a ring for powerful men. But when the public was asked about this just the other day, 94% believe that he was. So obviously there's a huge gap between what the FBI says they believe and what the public, who has now at this point seen most of the same files, say they believe. If anything, the FBI by definition would have access to more evidence.
Of course.
And yet with the files that we already do have, 94% of the public say, yeah, Epstein obviously was trafficking. But the FBI, of course, isn't investigating new parties. They say there's no evidence for it.
Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself?
Himself. There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one?
For the information that we have.
In the files?
In the case file.
Okay, even if you believe what he says, after the revelation that the FBI themselves thought there were 4 co-conspirators in the previous draft indictment.
Then it should lead to an investigation.
10 co-conspirators. Now you're supposed to believe, nope, no women were trafficked to any of these people. Epstein was working alone. It might be surprising to learn then that the DOJ and FBI under Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, who ran on the idea of releasing these files, have not talked to people who say they were victimized by Jeffrey Epstein. This was brought out 2 different times. I want to watch both of them with you because it's astonishing to hear someone say, we have no credible evidence on other perpetrators, only to learn you never talked to the women who were allegedly trafficked.
Oh my God. And of course, it's the same lady. This was a twofer. Because, yes, this is with regard to Kash Patel. But afterwards, we have the same case with Pam Bondi, who refused to apologize to the victims for what her DOJ had done. She didn't even want to look at them. Oh, man.
The age of 14 and 16 years old, and they called to meet with the president and to meet with the FBI and to have people investigate their claims. Some of them have never testified before. If you are so interested in getting the public to submit any information, why have you not met with them? You said you haven't met with them. Have you met with them? I'll give you one more chance.
My job as the FBI director is to invite
Is the
all
answer yes or no
leads.
to whether or not you met with these women who were
The simple answer.
Any
Yes or no?
insinuation by you or any
What
people
is
on
the
your
an-
side that I am not manhunting child traffickers, just look at the
Mr.
stats.
Patel,
And you talk
Mr.
about
Chairman,
cover-ups, man.
Mr. Chairman,
you
this
talk
is
about
my time, and
cover-ups.
I'm going to stop it there. It just devolves. He refuses to answer the question of, did you actually meet with these women? Luckily for us, some of those same people later showed up at another hearing, this time in a hearing with Pam Bondi.
Survivors in the room. If you are willing, please stand.
Jesus Christ.
And if you are willing, please raise your hands if you have still not been able to meet with this Department of Justice.
Everyone.
Please know for the record that every single survivor has raised their hand.
Yeah, it's honestly shocking to see. There's these people who are claiming to be victims of Epstein. The DOJ and FBI have consistently said, look, we want to take all available evidence. We just need the evidence.
And we have continuously and publicly asked for the public to come forward with more
Then
information.
talk to them.
Look at it.
And then it's like, well, did you interview these people who say they have evidence? Well, no, actually, we didn't. This comes up again.
Now, would the survivors and victims who are here please stand up one more time? Just by show of hands, how many of you or your loved ones actually have met with the Department of Justice and provided testimony and estimate and evidence? None. And of those of you who have not met, which is everyone, how many of you have reached out either individually or through a lawyer or representative to offer to provide testimony and evidence? All of them.
Oh my gosh.
And she's just there, sitting there with her poker face.
What can you even say to that? This is a DOJ. This is an FBI that claims to be interested in getting to the bottom of the Epstein files, except when actually asked, they cover up, they redact, and they don't ask for victim testimony or evidence. I mean, how can you possibly say you've reached a conclusion as to an investigation when you literally haven't talked to the people who would be a victim of said investigation?
Instead, they're going to be leaking their names for the many people who did not even want their identity to be revealed so that they can scare them. This is, oh my God, this is a classic 101. And it is that brazenness, just how openly they are doing it. And just playing as a joke. That is so disgusting.
Furthermore, how can Kash Patel say under oath, without perjuring himself, that there was no credible evidence that Epstein trafficked to anyone else, when internal emails to 710 Director's Call, it says approximately 4 to 5 victims accused other adult men of abusing them. There was not enough evidence to federally charge these individuals, so the cases were referred to local law enforcement. Again, there's a huge difference between there's no credible evidence.
There is no credible information. None.
And we couldn't pull charges. I mean, that's a totally different thing. And in that case, isn't the whole point to investigate that?
Yeah.
Isn't the whole point to call more of the people saying they have evidence? Isn't that?
No. Then they're going to do the same thing that they did with both Alex Preddy and with Renee Good. We're going to take over the investigation, right? We are the FBI. We cover over this, and then they literally cover over it and never talk about it ever again.
Your job? How can the FBI, the DOJ, conclude definitively that Epstein wasn't trafficking to anyone when Jess Staley, during a UK court hearing in 2025, admitted to having with a member of Epstein's staff? He, of course, described it as consensual, but internally within the Epstein files, there's accusations against Jess Staley. One of the files alleges that a victim was left with body marks after an interaction with the former Barclays boss. This
is the one that was playing with the personages. I've been trying to follow along with what's going on with some of the stuff that I released there. And this one is just... it's outright gross, as you can probably see already. The conversations with him... because, one, they are treating actual human beings here as property, just being passed around here. And one of the victims that he had intercourse with, he called, in an email exchange with Epstein, called her Snow White. And as he was later asked, what character would you like to have next? He goes, Beauty and the Beast.
Disgusting Mr. Staley, if anyone ever calls me Tinkerbell again, I will lose my mind. Which I know sounds weird that Jess Staley would allegedly refer to a girl as some type of like Disney character or cartoon character, but this is consistent with email exchanges. Jess Staley says, that was fun to Jeffrey Epstein. Say hi to Snow White. What character would you like next? Epstein later asks, to which Staley replied, Beauty and the Beast. Epstein responded, well, one side is available. Now again, I'm not saying these emails would be enough to charge Jess Staley, but to investigate? Almost certainly. It's definitely unconscionable to say there's zero evidence of Epstein trafficking to anyone.
There is no credible information. None.
How can that possibly be true when some of your files say 4 or 5 victims accused other men? So it's just totally insane to me the way we are all treating this, where the people in power whose job it is to hold these people accountable, they want to laugh about it, they want to joke, they want you to smile about the whole thing. This actually came to a head when one reporter asked about the survivors.
But I think it's time now for the country to maybe get onto something else.
But what would you say?
Yeah, I shared this clip with you last time, didn't I? This was the one that both J.D. Vance and Megyn Kelly was making fun of, saying that, oh no, she doesn't smile, she should smile more, and her referring to the actual boss that sexually harassed her as the example to follow, because he would tell them, their employees, to smile more, especially the women.
Asking a question, the president says, why don't you ever smile?
Yeah.
And it's actually like so perceptive. Does it always have to be so antagonistic?
Well, I laugh because I saw online everybody was calling him sexist for saying that. And I literally said the same thing about Caitlin Collins a year ago on my show. She never smiles. Every once in a while, you have to smile. Roger Ailes used to tell us that. Every once in a while, you remember to smile, show the viewers that you have a heart.
Have some fun.
Now, you might be wondering why I mentioned J.D. Vance and Megyn Kelly and why I'm showing you this clip. Well, as a person who tends to expose himself to news from both sides, so to be able to call hypocrisy when I see it, Roger Ailes, who Megyn Kelly has just brought up in this clip, is a person who has sexually harassed her before, which is a weird thing to bring forth when accusation of misogyny is brought up against a person who is defending a sexual harasser, and especially as you mentioned him as a person whose example should be followed.
So the harassment that I went through wasn't obviously harassment in the beginning, and then it graduated. You know, it just got worse and worse and worse to the point where you couldn't deny it. And it was explicit quid pro quo sexual harassment, which was, you know, basically you sleep with me and I'll give you a promotion. But that feeling I'll never forget of like going in there and having him lock that door. And then, so it culminated in him trying to be with me physically. And it was only at that point where you couldn't pretend it wasn't happening anymore, that I really had to come to terms with it. And I ran out of the guy's office. I mean, he tried to grab me 3 times, make out with me, which he didn't. But I had to shove him off of me, and he came back, and I shoved him again, and he came back a 3rd time. And then when I shoved him off the 3rd time, he asked me when my contract was up.
Irony is not even the word here anymore.
Say to people who feel like they haven't gotten justice, Mr. President.
Something that people care about.
Gotten
You are
justice.
the worst reporter. You know, she's a young woman. I don't think I've ever seen you smile. I've known you for 10 years. I don't think I've ever seen a smile
Well,
on
I'm
your
asking
face.
you about survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's,
You know why you're
Mr.
not
President?
smiling? Because you know you're not telling the truth.
You know what? You know how it is as a man when you're going on your 9-to-5 job, for all of you who are either working black collar, blue collar jobs. I'm mentioning these specifically because these are the ones that tend to not have the best upward mobility, and historically are always told just to suck it up. You need to suffer. You are just pushed around like a freaking chess piece. You are forever a hamster in the wheel, and you should just be able to obey. You have no sliver of power. The only time that men historically would then feel that was in the home, for which of course they would express that in very, very bad ways. Well, on the flip side of that, you have what is about 50% of the population, women, who are constantly told to smile more. Like, what the fuck? Imagine being in situations like these, and you have some creep that tells you you should smile more. How is it that she is the only adult in the room right now?
It's honestly baffling. I mean, how are we supposed to act during the Epstein files when we hear about these horrific stories? Are we all supposed to be like Howard Lutnick, just guffawing, laughing it up? How are we supposed to treat this travesty of justice? And again, I want to restate for the millionth time, this is not political, no matter how much the DOJ and FBI try to argue that it is. The person we're about to watch questioning Pam Bondi is a Republican. But anytime you say anything negative about the Epstein file handling, which was run on by this administration, they either bounce to, well, you must hate Trump, or the Democrats didn't do it last time, so we shouldn't be expected to do anything either. And you're about to see more of that.
Within 40 minutes, Wexner's name was added back.
Within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
There was one redaction out
Where
of
he's
over
listed as a
4,700,
co-conspirator.
and we
Why is she
invited you
laughing?
in. This guy has Trump derangement syndrome.
Literally, we caught you guys redacting a co-conspirator's name. I mean, there's a lot more than that they redacted, but it's like, for them to say, oh, what? Oh, it was just one name. We put it.
I mean, if anybody has Trump derangement syndrome, it's you, Pam Bondi. You who got to your position. Let me switch screens here. With the general donation of the Orange Man of like, what was it, $25,000? I wonder what motivates you.
40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
There was one redaction out
Where
of
he's
over
listed as a co-conspirator.
4,700, and we invited you in.
Gentlemen.
This guy has Trump derangement syndrome.
Literally, we caught you guys redacting a co-conspirator's name. I mean, there's a lot more than that they redacted, but it's like, for them to say, oh, what? Oh, it was just one name. We put it up when you said so. When you caught us on our 4 computers we allowed you to use with redactions on top of redactions. And Pam Bondi's performance here was so bad that at one point she's being asked about, like, are you bringing any more indictments? Are you investigating anyone? And she jumps back to some pretty bizarre talking points.
How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators are you even investigating?
First, you showed it. I find it.
How many have you indicted?
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Answer my question.
No, I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question.
No,
Your
you're going to answer the
theatrics are
question the way I
ridiculous.
asked it.
And none of them.
She's a lawyer, mind you. Criminal justice lawyer. She knows how to answer questions. She knows that when she's being asked a yes or no question, she should be answering yes or no, never pushing further. But interestingly enough, a thing that I actually want you to take note, the person who is chairing this hearing, whose name is, I think, Jim Jordan, right? Calling him Chairman Jim Jordan is very weird because of this man's background, has a very fun history. Well, certainly fun for the Trump administration, because this man has been accused of protecting a sexual abuser who was a doctor for the Ohio wrestling team, where he abused tens of girls for that team for years. And Jim Jordan, the chairman of this hearing, covered up for this person. Now, this is all alleged, but in 2022, a similar case came up. So, I don't know, man. These are people who have a history of covering up for pedophiles, because what other AG has done this in the past? Let me think. Alex Acosta, you know, the guy who gave Epstein his sweetheart deal and who came up after that? Oh, strangely enough, a Pam Bondi. Like, I've said this in the past, and this is not a conspiracy theory. This is literally a thing that you can see through payment, through documents, through legislation. Conservative, especially Christian conservative, have had a massive effort in the United States to undermine education, to make sure that the American people are not informed, to always make it wishy-washy, to make it so that you do not believe science, to make it so that you do not believe what it is that the other side ever says, and so that you only gurgle up what it is that they are spoon-feeding, at least those of their followers. And through that, they have always laughed at the face of their followers, because they know that these are people of faith. These are people who would take whatever spiel they send their way. And by the way, this is not me mocking people who, in all earnestness, have been stuck in the dark, led out of the loop, okay? What I'm trying to say here is that they have taken a lot of joy in seeing you not knowing shit. That's why they never want to fund public schools. That's why they never want to have things that collectively is going to raise Americans to be more well-learned and know about what is going on around them. And this is the reason why they are always accused of being detached from reality, because they do all of this posturing, this nonsense. But, okay, to flip it around, I am super happy that even Republicans now are pushing back against MAGA. Because this cult, because it is a bloody cult, have done damn near irreparable damage to the American politics.
None of them asked Merrick Garland over the last 4 years one word about Jeffrey Epstein. How ironic is that? You know why? Because Donald Trump, the Dow right now is over, the Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at all.
This binder that she has is full of zingers, targeting politicians, all those people in the room. I'm willing to bet, if I were one of those assholes that has been making Kalshi and whatever other betting application run the world right now, I will bet that every pages in that binder is a zinger, has a zinger ringing onto it that is going to target, like a diss that will target one of the politicians that is sitting in that room. For which, if I'm not mistaken, something was found during this hearing about espionage on politicians, but I can't comment on that. I only saw like the headline, so I can't go into depth about that one. But holy shit, she just said the Dow. The Dow. Can you imagine? Okay, I'm sorry for stalling here, but like, can you imagine for a second your granddad coming towards you like, "Hey, grandson, listen here. Want to see how it is that my retirement plan is going? It's so good. My 401k is skyrocketing, son." Well, thank you, grandfather. I can't afford rent today. I can't even buy groceries. I'm going to be evicted next month because I can't get a job. I'm stuck in a gig economy. I need to pay back my student loans for a job that I can't even get today because everything is going to be dominated by AI. But good on you for sharing with me something that has no relevancy to my current situation. Like, what the f*** is this?
Almost and the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about making Americans safe. We should be talking about, what is a Dow?
Making Americans safe? Yeah, well, protect them from the pedophiles.
I'll have to do with anything? That's what they just asked? Are you kidding?
No, I do want to know, what does the Dow have to do with Jeffrey Epstein victims? I truly don't understand that. So yeah, this whole thing was a complete disaster of a meltdown. They're treating it as an absolute joke, and they criticize you if you don't smile, like Howard Lutnick when he's caught lying about the Epstein files. And while I can't personally muster that kind of energy, I do want to talk about some more of the revelations in the Epstein file. Like, the most noteworthy is that Trump called the Palm Beach Police Department immediately after Epstein was arrested, according to a police chief that was interviewed in 2019. He says back when he arrested Epstein the first time, Trump called him and said, "Thank goodness you're stopping him. Everyone has known he's been doing this." Saying about Maxwell, she's evil, and to focus on her, according to the police chief, Trump was one of the first people to call.
Of course he will use that now as a thing that, but I called the police. Well, despite the fact that a lot of other things that you did were contradictory, but you're still implicated, very much implicated as a friend, co-conspirator, and as yourself, a diddler. Which is even worse actually for him because, hey, you've done that, so why don't you want to, like, release the Epstein file? What are you, a whitehead pedophile? Like a whitehead hacker? Trump was just like a whitehead pedophile. I was just there in order to do some reporting, you know? I participated for science.
Julie K. Brown said that when Trump called the chief, it was after the Epstein story became public, when Epstein was arrested. This actually goes a long way to explain Speaker Mike Johnson's previous comments that Trump blew the whistle to the FBI to stop Epstein.
He was an FBI informant to try to take this stuff down.
Like I said, a whitehead
hacker. Probably just misunderstood that it was an FBI interview of a police chief, and that at the time it was the Palm Beach Police Department handling that case. And I think that even for the people who say, okay, that's just because they had a falling out over real estate or anything like that, I think it undoubtedly is a good look for Donald Trump and clearly something they're going to hang on to as more of these files get released.
Sure.
We also have something that kind of goes the other way. Remember the Wall Street Journal birthday book story, which Trump said is absolutely false and he's suing over? We have a B-Day book update sent in 2002 when the book was supposedly drafted, and we see LM for blank, George Mitchell, Donald Trump, Henry Jarecki, and Leon Black, which definitely undermines his case, defamation case, against the Wall Street Journal. I think another interesting component of this was realizing that Jeffrey Epstein was secretly buying motion-detected hidden cameras that record, and one of the people who said they were installing them said they were installing them into Kleenex boxes. There's another email from Jeffrey Epstein where he claims to need a button camera for the Sultan. Once again, highlighting that this case about Jeffrey Epstein is also a bizarre case of power. Who did this guy work for?
Yeah, well, he was an informant.
SCIF, which might be an acronym for a sensitive compartmented information facility. Later, he says that Ehud Barak is with me. You would have loved my tech meeting in the SCIF. This is an intelligence term, which is usually something you need the ability to receive classified information for, although it's not clear because later Epstein says that his house is similar to an SCIF. So the connection to the government is not exactly bulletproof. I don't want to give the false impression that it...
But, well, we can make some inferences. It's not too surprising the Maxwell family deals with just that. Ghislaine's sisters are very deep into investment. The father, Robert Maxwell, was a Mossad informant, wasn't he? He was a spy, and of course she would do the same thing. So not too surprising to see that Epstein would have ties to those agencies. Also, there are theories about her having...
But it does raise a bunch of questions. Like Bradley Edwards, one of the victim's lawyers, actually speaks about this in his book. He said that this bodyguard had been sent by Epstein to Virginia to CIA headquarters. Nervously telling me the story, the bodyguard said, "I don't know why I was there, but he told me they would take care of me. I attended a class for a week. At the beginning of the class, everyone had to introduce themselves. There were 45 people. 44 were in the CIA or some other government unit with top secret clearance. I was the only private citizen. So clearly there's some indication, some testimony to the fact that Epstein may have had access to either classified briefings or he had some pool with the CIA. Now, we might know about this because there was actually a FOIA to the CIA about Jeffrey Epstein. Ironically, it was from Jeffrey Epstein. This is Jason Leopold saying the Epstein filed FOIA request with the CIA in which he...
Of course, the CIA would not want to have implications with him, obviously. We're not the FBI, dude. We may be a three-letter agency, but no, we don't operate the same way. If we have any relation with you, whether or not we confirm and or deny, that could be troublesome. So fuck you, Epstein.
He sought documents that would show that he had a, quote, open affiliation with the CIA between 1999 and 2011, and NSA for documents relating or referring to himself. Epstein did not receive any records. Instead, he got GLOMARS. That just refers to a term that basically they neither confirmed or denied it because they said that doing so would reveal, quote, a classified connection to the CIA, and thus the CIA cannot confirm or deny the existence of records responsive to your request. Therefore, you may consider this portion a denial of your request pursuant to FOIA exemptions. More specifically, they say, we searched the CIA originated responsive records that might reflect an open or otherwise acknowledged agency affiliation. So these are also the important questions we need answers to, but it's hard to get them when everything is treated as a joke, when nobody takes this seriously. So yeah, all in all, this is a very frustrating story to cover, given how the people handling the whole story are engaging with it. They're laughing, they're joking, they're not responding, they're telling us to smile, and in general, they just want us to get over it. But I don't think that's gonna happen.
Like, dude, this is wild. The fact that Bundy herself ran for AG to go after human traffickers, and now she's protecting them, is wild. It's so insane that I now have to like look back at the many conspiracy theories that were like, oh, we got Pizzagate. And be like, you know what? I can't exactly just say that you were wrong because you were onto something. Just Jesus Christ, what a timeline that we live in. Anyways, folks, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I am going to have reset my brain by watching some PlayStation event, okay? See you there if you want to watch that as well. So, bye.